Howdy, y'all. Today I'm going to talk about the XL pipeline, whether it's fact or fiction. The agenda for today, when we talk about this, is the introduction, pipeline's Western grid, Standing Rock reservation conflict, future negotiations of the XL pipeline, in conclusion. As you can see, the first thing, as you see on my little screen here, is this gas pipeline formation in the Western grid. And the one thing I found fascinating about this is we see up in here the sand grids up here, or the sand where the oil would come out of, and we don't see the XL pipeline, but we see the existing Western grid. And the one thing, like I said, I found interesting is that number one, we see a lot of the pipelines in the western or in the southern parts of the state, but you had your cities like El Paso, Santa Fe, Tucson, Phoenix, LA, San Francisco, and I found that very interesting. And then where these pipelines are to move gas and everything else around. I found that very interesting. Uh, the pipeline from Canada would go from up here and connect. This is one of the proposals. If they get the permits and everything, and then would come through here out of this is the borderline, and then come over to the main line, and then here's Houston, where a lot of the refineries are that are located, and it goes through. And one of the issues I'm concerned is it goes over the biggest underground water source, this pipeline, which is a major source of concern for many environmentalists and people that are concerned about good quality of water. Alberta oil sands are 106 billions, estimated 168 billion barrels. Supposedly, it's the third largest proven crude oil reserves in the world. Alberta's oil reserves are an important role in the U.S. economy and globally, and the reliability is every energy is to Canada as well as the United States. President Trump thing was one of his things was drill baby drill. The issue or concern that I have is when you're dealing, especially I deal with a lot of work with groundwater. Groundwater, you just don't know how much is there because it's underground. Same thing with the same premise with oil and sand. Oil, you just really don't know how much is there until you start bringing it to the surface. The proposal of the pipeline is, we've talked about this before, in the past under the Trump administration. It was suspended by Obama. Trump ordered the permits, and then Biden stopped it again. But like I said, is this fiction or fact about the XL pipeline? Proposal, as you can see, the gray area are the reservations, and the blue are waters. And particularly in concern for me is, since I'm a water guy, is that it goes right through the Missouri River. And like I said, a little bit further south down, we get into the largest underground water supply for many of the western states. The big issue, as people remember, concerned Standing Rock, where Standing Rock was the issue on concerning water and water control, and how the issue became an issue with a lot of the Native Americans. Because to them, water is life, and part of the water is life is they use a lot of water in ceremonies, and is also part of tribal identity. So if you get rid of a tribal water source, then this can affect their tribal identity, especially in cases where they will not be able to use the reservation anymore and be forced on another location within a city. Standing Rock Reservation, like as I previously said, is where part of this issue became. Reservation, the process of reservations is they're their own identity. They're part of the Interior Department under the BIA, Bureau of Indian Affairs, and the pipeline passes through part of the reservoir to part of the reservation. And like I said, the issue becomes uh, they're not really they're run by the federal government, but reservations have their own set of laws and that were set up because they were put onto reservations. The another issue that came out of this was an alternative route has been proposed. The route would go around Standing Rock. Consequently, and my concern about it, since like I said this a couple of times, I'm a water guy, and the Missouri River. A lot of the farmers, especially when it starts getting hotter in the summer and drier, is they count on the water supply for irrigate their crops. Part of this riparian rights, which is water rights, depends on the flow of water, clean, reliable water, and also groundwater. And this can still have an impact, even if they go around the source, and somehow the water pollutes some parts of the reservation or groundwater, can still have an impact on Standing Rock. Canada and United States, Danielle Smith, who is a minister in Alberta, wants a conversation with Trump concerning the pipeline. This is a way for them to develop a plan and to start getting permitting starting again so they can start working on the pipeline and get things working again on the pipeline to create jobs for this region, not only in Canada, but part of the United States as well. Part of this became an executive order. Republican Ryan Zilk, who was the former Secretary of the Interior, it maintains America's supply of heavy crude oil is important, but the issue becomes with heavy crude oil. It's used in photochemicals as well as asphalt. And I'm not a big person that knows a lot about processing of oil, but it's a heavy oil, and a lot of the processing of oil, my understanding, what I know so far, is that we produce a lot of lighter crude oil, so that some of this oil may have to be shipped elsewhere, like in Saudi Arabia or somewhere where they would be able to ship this. But the executive order was that President Trump signed that rescinded some of the orders of Biden. Uh, as I talked about it, President Trump rescinded Biden's order. Jason Isaac, who is a big energy guy, bolsters North America's energy infrastructure and reducing reliance on foreign oil. And there again, this is part of the issue that becomes available about that. President Trump viewpoint: we don't need their oil, which we're talking about foreign oil or gas. We have more than anybody else, and that's his contention. This is one of his contentions about Greenland as well, and this is not about Greenland. This is about the XL pipeline. But there again, I think this is all quote, because when we're talking about something that's in the ground, even though it's there, we don't know how much is really there. So there's a false precept about this concerning this. Project 25, we're talking about the issues, and some of this is like, with the borders, some downsizing the federal government, but the one thing was unleashing Americans' energy production to reduce energy prices. And then in Trump's view, if we decrease energy prices, it'll decrease a lot of the other prices. And that may not necessarily be true. I'm not in economics, but that is not a guarantee. My finding or my closing here is due to the fact that we rescind Biden's order, President Trump's executive orders about re-permitting, Trump's viewpoint about drill baby drill, and we have our own, the Project 25 objectives, and the other snafu that a lot of people haven't talked about it. The former governor of North Dakota is now the Secretary of the Interior. A lot of the oil reserves were part of this pipeline. XL pipeline would go through. Is now the Interior Secretary, Secretary of the Interior. So the point is, there are a lot of this. In the South Dakota, former governor now is Homeland Security. There's got to be some, there, I shouldn't say got, but there's some type of tie in there when you have North Dakota and South Dakota tied into the part of the Trump administration. So with that, these are my endnotes, folks, and thank you very much for your time and listening to my speech. Thank you.